Hello, everyone. I'm Eric D'Souza, and you're joining us again today on Crime Writers of Canada's podcast, where we discuss crime fiction from authors from coast to coast, and I guess even beyond. So today we have a twist. Phelan, how are you today?
Very well.
So you are joining us today because you are nominated for two awards. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You are nominated for both Best Crime Novella, sponsored by Carrick Publishing, for your story AIM, that was published in
Mhm.
Ellery Queen Mystery Magazine, and also Best Juvenile YA Crime Book, sponsored by Superior Shores, for your story Snowed, published
Right.
by Bondsville Books. So you were kind enough to send me a bio, and you did a great job because it could have been much, much longer. So I'm going to read what you sent me. Uh,
Okay.
Twist is an award-winning author of 11 mystery novels, which have been praised by Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, Kirkus, and Booklist. She also writes short stories, which have appeared in Ellery Queen magazine and various anthologies. Accolades for her work include two Thriller Awards and the Arthur Ellis Award, plus multiple nominations for the Thriller, Ellis, Shamus, Anthony, Derringer, Silver Falchion, the Lefty Awards, and the Crime Writers of Canada Awards of Excellence. Oh, and also the Irish Book Awards. If you don't mind, let's start with AIM.
Sure.
On your website, you write that my protagonists strive to do right within the outside of the system. If you like reading about characters who are professionals to the core but have a heart, um, these are the characters that you say you like to write. But your protagonist in AIM is um, Finn Teller, who's a corporate spy, which essentially makes her a mercenary. How do you make it fit? Because if you're essentially a hired gun that is paid to do what you're told, how do you keep your morality?
You do that by doing what Finn does. Is she always brings her own sense of justice to each assignment, and she satisfies the requirements of her job. She has a great relationship with her boss, who I think she drives crazy at the same time. But she always makes sure that right is done. She makes sure that justice is done, and that's what makes the character appealing for me. I couldn't just do somebody who is a mercenary. I got the inspiration for her on a flight where a somewhat inebriated gentleman sitting next to me, we were in the front of the plane, and first said, I used to be a spy. And I'm like, oh, brother, this is going to be a long flight. And he then said, no, and Yuri over there, he's a spy too. We used to spy against each other. And then over there is somebody else, and he used to be with, Polish secret police. And I'm like, oh my God, what plane am I on? Well, as it turns out, they were in fact telling the truth. And this was, I learned through the course of chatting with these gentlemen over the flight that they'd all been working for their government's espionage services, and that they then started working for a private entity. And so that's what I base the company that Fintella works for on. I didn't realize this, but 80% of all spies are private. Only 20% work for governments, and they do the work that for individuals, for companies, even for governments, that governments can't do. And so they invited me to a party later that evening that they were having. And I went there. There was a ballroom full of former spies, male and female, from all over the world. And I left not only with the idea for Finn, but probably for about 20 books and stories, just because the champagne and the vodka and whatever other their drinks were flowing. And I was just listening away. So but I did get a sense from some of them. One woman I spoke with in particular about the morality question, because I asked her essentially, when people are spies for their government, oftentimes they're doing it out of patriotism if they're not doing it for money or for love or one of those, other really strong motivating factors. And I said, well, it seemed to me that you guys are all doing it basically for money. Yes, you said you're a mercenary. And I said, how do you bring a good feeling to work every day? And she said, I make sure on every assignment that it is my sense of right is imposed on the situation. And she said she didn't take jobs that she didn't believe in. and she had tweaked it. And so I thought, there I am, I'm off and running. So Finn always manages to do justice. And I get emails from readers saying they appreciate that. So I felt like that made me feel good, that she always makes sure that things are set to the right, whether they were within the strict parameters of her job assignment or not. And she's such a valuable operative that her boss will not let her go for doing things like that. And so that's how I reconcile that.
Well, you put her in a bad spot in this one.
Yes,
And she must have rubbed a lot of people wrong at this point in her career. And
absolutely.
so,
In
where
five
are you sending
novels
her?
and four short stories, she certainly has a couple of several enemies. There are several countries that she can't go back to. I made up a country called Kazakhstan um, because my husband's first name is Jack, and so I said, "Honey, you now have a country named after you." I wanted it to be an Icky-stan, as I call them. That wasn't a real country. I didn't really want to get people mad at me, and so it was kind of funny. The editor of Ellery Queen, when I sent in the first Finn story, was, "Did you mean this country? We can't find it on any map, but we know you're very well traveled." And I said, "Oh no, it's in my imagination. That's where Finn can't go back to." But yeah, she does have enemies, but at the same time, she doesn't care. I mean, the driving force in her life, given her personal background, is that she is going to do right regardless. And that's both her strength and her failing. It will get her into really dangerous situations, but at the same time, it will enable her to take on these situations that ordinary people might be too timid or too wise not to undertake.
I'm always curious of how authors like yourself choose the length of a story. So a little backstory of yours is I read an interview, or sorry, I listened to an interview you did in 2016 or 2017 when you were first putting these Finn books out. And you had actually spent 4 years writing these 5 books and you put them out a month apart. And I loved your reasoning to it of just not making your readers wait, which is so kind of you.
Right.
But you said it was sort of an experiment, and then you never wrote another novel of hers again, and you kept it to short stories. So what was the sort of, I don't know, business idea or creative decision to keep them
Now
shorter?
you're making me feel very guilty because Fin number 6 is sitting, I can see it right here on my
Oh,
desk.
excellent.
And it's been there for a couple of years. And really, what happened was, as I loved her as a character, Ellery Queen loved her as a character as well. And so they've asked for a Finn story a year. The third one just is published in last month's issue of Ellery Queen. Another one will be coming out next year. It's something she said that the readers like to look forward to. Some of the stories are quite long. I think AIM is like almost 12,000 words, I believe. They give me leeway in the magazine. I'm very fortunate that way. They will take my very short stuff as well as my very long stuff. And I I think what happened is COVID happened, and it just seemed as though it was a time to do something different. And actually, when you want to talk about Snowed, that's what's prompted Snowed. And then that's what prompted me to get into short stories because I, other than some MWA anthologies and anthologies for friends, I pretty much publish exclusively for Ellery Queen. I have 6 issues a year, and I'm usually in 3 or 4 issues out of the 6 every year. And
Oh,
so that
wow.
I think I had 4 last year so far. I know 3 this year, possibly 4, 3 the year before. So that became a really fabulous opportunity for me. And it's a medium I absolutely adore. I love writing short stories. I'm known for short stories.
Mhm.
It allows me to deal with something. Usually, what is a genesis for a short story is something's bugging me. And when it bugs me, and I will tell my husband, okay, this is kind of bugging me. And he says, oh boy, I know I'll see a story about this. It could be in a month, it could be 6 months, but if something bugs me, that's how I get it out. And it's a really great medium to do that because it's short, it's contained. I've had stories in there that are less than 1,800 words. And as I said, I've had some that are 12 over 12,000 words. So I don't think about length, I guess, before I start it. It's more what's bugging me and what serves the story. I never pay attention to word count when I'm writing. It's funny. And all the Finn novels, with the exception of one, are short.
Mhm.
uh, 1, 2, and 4 and 5 are 50,000 words, because I thought I really want to do this so that they're quick bites for people, that they can enjoy them. And then the one that's in the middle is 100, close to 100,000 words, and that's primarily because there's almost a book within a book in terms of her backstory. I figured at that point people knew and liked the character. And it's kind of funny because every time a Finn story comes out in Ellery Queen, I see a big bump in the book sales. So it tells me that people are liking the character and want to go and find out more about her. So that's kind of gratifying. But yes, there is another Finn novel for sure. I just have to, and there's a sequel to Snowed. Publishers are waiting for both, and I just have to stop writing short stories long enough to do them. So now that I feel totally guilty, go on.
You shouldn't feel guilty because that's the creative side of it. And I do like the idea of writing short stories for a series because it bumps the sale. Like we have to be creative when it comes to our marketing. And if every time you get published in Ellery Queen, you see a bump, that's great marketing.
Well, it's also fun because Finn works on cases. And so a case lends itself to a short story.
Mhm.
It could be short, it could be long, but it just seems to fit very well the short story format.
Well, let's switch to Snow then. And it does say book one in the series, so I think you are committed to writing
Yeah, I
number
am.
two.
And it's actually coming along really well. That stack is over there. I'm looking at it. Yes, I see you. And I was actually working on it earlier today. And that is much farther along. It's actually I outline all my books, and so it's outlined chapter by chapter, and I'm motoring along in it. And so that's going extremely well. B was a bit of unexpected for me. She's an eighth grader, and or grade 8, as we say in Canada, and but she's an eighth grader because she lives in an imaginary town, small mountain town in outside of Denver, Colorado,
Mhm.
and called Bristlecone. And it was the story that came to me when the big COVID shutdown happened. I had been mentoring young women in 7th and 8th grade in writing programs. I meet with them at the local library. We go over what they're writing. We talk writing. I teach them writing. Super talented young women and or girls. I guess they're kind of on the cusp. They're an
Mhm.
interesting age because you can see them be girls, and you can also see the young women that they're going to become. And so they were in my mind when I thought I have to write something else. And so I thought that's the age where you're trying to figure out the world. And it's coming, it's looming, and you kind of want to be more adult, but at the same time, man, you really don't want to. And that's what I saw in these young women. And so that's why I picked B. And she was in a situation that was not that different from mine growing up. My mom was a working mom at a time where moms didn't work, and my dad was a working dad. He was a real estate developer, and she was a scientist out on trips and things. And so you kind of had this feeling that you were navigating 7th and 8th grade by yourself. I now talking with friends after the fact, they felt equally as lost, even though their moms were at home. So I guess, it's all a matter of your perception when you're a kid. But I remember that feeling of, boy, something big is coming. It's part of high school. It's that whole thing is rushing at me, and I want it, but oh boy, part of me does not want it. And so that's kind of was where I was a starting point. And that's so Snowed was written that first year of lockdown, so to speak. And we happened to be caught in Europe when that occurred. And so it was written in large part in Europe, where things were much more locked down, and it, it didn't reopen as quickly. And so you really did have a lot of time, um, to yourself, and where the world kind of just stopped. um,
It was a great time for writers because we had no
yeah.
excuses.
Right, exactly. Although, my husband said, I never realized until you told me, honey, how loudly I apparently breathed when I'm two floors down from me in the house. I was like, yes, because he'd be on his Zoom calls, with downstairs, and I'm upstairs in the garret, two floors away. Like, I'm sure I can hear him breathing, or like, God help the poor man if he goes out for a cup of tea or something. So no, he's great. He's super supportive, but I was so used to him like having the house to myself, or having the apartment or wherever we were living to myself, that it was almost startling to me. What the heck are you doing in the kitchen now? I'm getting a cup of tea, or something like that. I'm sure I wasn't the only one who it took some adjusting. I don't know how people who did it, who work in smaller apartments in urban centers. So my tip of my hat to them.
Yes, kudos to them, the ones that made it, the
Yeah,
relationships that made
exactly, exactly.
it. The thing about her that strikes me is not odd, and maybe you already told me a little bit because you were inspired by the kids, the girls you were working with, but I can see Finn Teller in you,
Ah,
a little bit like an imaginary version of you, but
Finn Teller or Fee
Finn,
Mahoney?
Finn Teller.
Fee is in, okay,
Fee
the
is
corporate
like,
spy. Yeah,
oh, you're so different than Fee.
yeah,
She's
right,
risk adverse.
right.
Uh, she's not worldly. Some of her friends seems like you, but
Very. Yes,
but are
yes.
these? But
No,
was she inspired then by the children you were working with? And
yes, very much. The ones who I work with kind of confided in me that seemed like their friends had a handle on it better than they did. And I tried to explain to them that's everybody's perspective. Trust me, your friends think everybody else has a better handle on this. This is just kind of a function of your age. So I was trying to write from the perspective of what it feels like to be 11 or 12. And I put her in a small town, not as sophisticated. I mean, she's very different than, for example, an 11 or 12-year-old who grew up in New York City. Those kids are way savvier, way more media exposed and things.
Mhm.
Where I lived in Colorado, a lot of the towns were already banning like smartphones and no phones going to school, and people really trying to limit screen time. And so there's a big initiative to get kids outside and playing and things of that sort. By like ski resorts would let you ski at a certain age for free. So that encourages your kids, for that season to go up and use the facilities there and things like that. For Finn Teller, I actually had some assignments as a lawyer. I was a plaintiff's trial lawyer. I had my own law firm, that bordered on the corporate spy-ish. I remember um, getting a limo driver to look the other way so I could take a peek at a briefcase in a limo. I remember doing some other things that I'm really glad that the statute of limitations has expired on. And but it was I sued middle-aged white guys who stole other people's money. And when you have those kind of stakes, they were quite vicious about it. And so it was a lot of meeting witnesses and who wanted to spill the beans, the forgotten secretary, the former girlfriend, or even just employees who felt badly about what was going on in faraway places. Now I don't know what I do with all the surveillance and things, because when you have tens, sometimes more, high tens of millions of dollars online, they take that very seriously.
Oh yeah.
So it was kind of the Wild West in terms of litigation. And so I I can I'm channeling my brave instincts when I'm writing Fee. I would like her. And she loves fast cars as much as I do, and she drives as fast as I do. I'm I'm a true car aficionado. And again, Really glad the statute of limitations has expired. I know there's some certain speeding endeavors,
All right.
but you know, but that's the great thing about being in like the Canadian West or the American West. You know, you can tear across Wyoming and see nobody on those roads. Or go down there, you know, I guess Canada, you know, Highway 1 in Canada, that's kind of tough, but there's less
With back
populated. If
roads.
you drop
Yeah. Yeah.
south, yeah, but if you drop south, there's a lot of
Yeah.
highways down there that are pretty unpopulated. And yes, highly irresponsible, you bet. Super fun, yes.
I think we better leave it there before you get yourself in trouble.
Absolutely. Well, as I said,
We're
statute of
recording this.
limitations is on my side. Thank goodness. And that would be
Excellent.
wrong for sure. Don't do that. Don't try that at home, kids.
Good morning. You do
Yeah,
right YA,
right.
you know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I know I'm a bad example. You know, that's what I want to do. I want to set the bar low. I have no aspirations of being a role model. I'm the bad example. Do not do what I do.
Do not do what anti-twist does. All
Exactly.
right. All right.
Exactly. Totally.
Thank you. So I'm
Totally.
going to wish you good luck twice. As I tell everyone,
Thank you.
I
Thank you very
don't I
much.
don't know who won. So when I say good luck, I truly mean it.
Well, I appreciate that. It's truly, look at all the talent. I mean, it's extraordinary to be in their company. I just feel super lucky. I've read all those books. I've read all their stories. They're all absolutely fantastic reads. I mean, that's the fun thing about publishing nominee lists is that if you want to get a boost up on your reading, go pull those. Pull the Canadian Awards of Excellence, pull the Edgars, and just work your way through those books, and you won't be sorry. So thank you very, very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.